And I'll try to get back to the presentation. So presentations and grading are the B course, and that should get you into different topics. You will learn more, and so that's a widening learning experience. And then for the science course, there's an essay, and then you really go deep into the issue to see what's happening on a certain topic. And then you try to be a scientist, and based on literature, to find a new perspective. So basically what we try to learn you, the relevance of the polar areas in a multidisciplinary context. So the teachers also on Nestor shown, I'm Maarten, then we have Pieter Jordan, Jean Desjardins, Annette Scheepstra, Renno Hokweda, and Frits Steenhuizen. Basically, the Antarctic is land and the Arctic is ocean. And I also explained this one already. The ice cap. The ice cap is everywhere in the Antarctic, and only on one island it's an ice cap, which is also almost 3 kilometers thick. Which island? Try to think about the island. I can't see what you answer in the chat window, but basically this one island is Greenland. It's interesting, these names. Iceland doesn't have an ice cap, has a few glaciers, but that has ice in the word, while Greenland has green in the word, but that's a big ice cap and just on the edges some tundra. What about the penguins? Where are they? Of course, you should know penguins are on the South Pole. So the letters in black are South Pole, the green are North. So they are absent above the equator. But actually I will learn you later that there are only 2 species of penguin which really are in the Antarctic. All the other species of penguins are more north. And they can even be, we have 1 species of penguin which is actually close to the equator on the Galapagos Islands. So penguins are birds from the southern hemisphere adapted to the ocean, but certainly not just polar animals. Then the interesting thing from the North Pole is that there used to be a penguin-like type bird, which is called the great auk. It was also something like 50 centimeters high. It couldn't fly. It was living on islands around Iceland, and it was extinct because people hunting it. So it's completely extinct. There are 3 stuffed great auks in the world, and one of them is in Leiden, actually in the Naturalis. But so they're not there anymore. But there is actually, the name penguin comes from the Latin name of the great auk, which was known earlier before they found the penguins. And so they had already a name for the species of birds which couldn't fly, and then all the species were called penguins. Land predators. So in the Arctic we have several. In the Antarctic we have none. Basically, if you go in the Antarctic, there is very little ground. The ice cap almost starts where the ocean ends. And there's very little, there are a few islands and a few spots with no ice. And on most of these spots we have scientific bases or penguin colonies or seabird colonies. So all the land is used by either penguin, birds or people, and there's very little land. A very important fact for comparing the Arctic with the Antarctic is actually isolation, because the Arctic is not that isolated. In the Arctic, there's a lot of north-south transport. We have the warm current passing the Netherlands going up into the Arctic Ocean through the Fram Strait. There's a lot of north-south transport. Also through the air, most of the air masses can go into the Arctic and circle around in the Arctic. While for the Antarctic, all the currents are going around the Antarctic, and there's a big border between the cold currents and the warm water more north. So the Antarctic is really isolated. If you would be on driftwood, you could end up in the Arctic, but if you're on driftwood, you'll never end up in the Antarctic. A very important difference. And also for the air masses, it happens like that. Then the tundra. Of course, we said already the landscape. There's large areas of tundra in the North Pole, but there's no tundra in the Antarctic. Just a few open spots, a little bit of plants, mainly lichens, or there are only two endemous plant species in the Antarctic. So basically there is no tundra, so there's also no grazing animals like we have in the Arctic. And then talking about people, which are also an important part of this lecture. In the Arctic, there are many cultures, very interesting to study. That's actually why I want you to see the video. You see a little bit about how these people live, how they have different cultures, how they are relating to reindeer herding, some of them, or others are fishing, or others are whaling and sealing. Many cultures with a lot of tradition. Nobody is living in the Antarctic. At the moment, though, there are scientific bases, and some people stay there for a year. But that's only in a scientific base. Nobody has a house in the Antarctic to live as a free person. No people over there. Really a different situation. So, humans, finally. We also talk about humans, and that's an important part of this course too. It's really crazy that these communities still exist. You still have these hunter-gatherers. You still have these people who live from the environment, live from hunting for seals and reindeer and herd reindeer in some countries. And so there's a lot interesting happening over there. So we have reindeer herders. In this case, it's Sami who herd reindeer. And of course, they still do. But life has changed. Also, the life of these people, they are not just living in the wild all the time. They have mobile phones, watches, and things like that, snow scooters. But what is their identity, and how will they survive with their identity? A lot of things happening over there, and we'll learn you more about what's happening.